Hello everyone, Professor Pinkpwnage here with a short video on a healing rotation or just your rotation period for Restoration Druids. I have not found a YouTube video I was happy with that taught me about this rotation, so I kind of figured out mostly myself while watching all the videos that were out there and made it to a very impressive key level for early on in this season. I'm top 1,000 to 2,000 overall as a Restoration Druid at this point in the season, and I did it through pugs. I don't have a dedicated Mythic group that I push keys with, and I'm relatively new to the game, only several months in. And I'm also 40 years old, so if I can do it, you can do it. Now, here on your screen is the healing rotation broken down into 7 steps. Now, in this next section, we're going to go over each of these steps, and then after that, I'm going to break it down for you. First off, before the fight starts, you'll start with an effervescence. It'll make all your heals for people who stand in it stronger, essentially. Then from there, as the tank is running in, and I know they're going to take a lot of damage, usually I will cast Iron Bark on them, and so they take reduced damage. One of the times tanks take very lethal damage is early on when they're grouping up the party. They're grouping up the enemy mobs. They might get hit in the back and take a lot of damage. And so cast Iron Bark on the beginning if you don't feel you'll need it in the fight very soon, and to help the tank gather up easier. And then I will also cast 1 Life Bloom on the tank, followed by a Life Bloom on either myself or a squishy DPS player. Okay, and so I'll cast Life Blooms. That is the next step in the process. And then the next step in the process after Life Blooms is to cast Rejuvenations, ideally 1 Rejuvenation on each party member. The more heal over times you have on your party, the stronger the healing will be on your party. And that is due to how Mastery works for Restoration Druids. The higher Mastery you have, the more healing will be increased for each heal over time you have on your party. After you cast Rejuvenations, usually what I will do is follow it up by a Swiftmend, which will give direct healing to a party member. And I'll just do this on someone, even if they don't need the healing, I'll just do it. If I don't feel like there will be direct damage coming in or someone doesn't need direct healing, after that Swiftmend, I will cast Wild Growth, and that'll make Wild Growth 50% stronger, which is a good blanket 5 target AoE heal. And the reason why it gets 50% stronger is due to Soul of the Forest. Casting Swiftmend immediately before Wild Growth will empower it. Swiftmend will also empower Regrowth, which is your single target heal, followed by Rejuvenation. So after this Swiftmend, usually I will Wild Growth if I don't have direct damage I need to heal. But if there's a situation where one person needs a lot of heals, you will certainly want to cast Swiftmend, followed by Regrowth, which will make it 150% stronger. That was a 3 million heal with very little going on right now. And so a very, very strong heal for a single target. But the last step is Regrowth. And so from casting all those heal over times, you should have procced at least one of these clear casting procs indicated by the green leaves indicator in the middle of your screen. From there, you want to use that proc by casting Regrowth, which will make your Regrowth essentially mana free, but then it is more likely it will proc Symbiotic Blooms on your party, and 2 of them to your nearby allies from your tier set, okay? And your 4-set tiers, and that is from your 2-piece tier set. From your 4-piece tier set, your Blooms have a chance to cast Bursting Growth, which is another passive major heal ability, okay? And so when I look at my healing done over time, the top 3 heals are Regrowth, Bursting Growth, and Symbiotic Blooms. That is, the last 2, Bursting Growth and Symbiotic Blooms, are straight from my tier set, which came from the Regrowth. So that part of your rotation is the strongest part of your heals as a Restoration Druid, okay? And that is the entire heal rotation. Again, I will start with Effervescence, followed by Bark Skin on the tank just to make sure he's okay, followed by 1 Life Bloom on the tank to make sure he's also extra A-okay. And if I trust the tank, I will not even bother with a Life Bloom on them. I'll put a Life Bloom on the DPS, but I'll then cast my Life Blooms on the party. Then I will cast Rejuvenations on the party. Then I will cast a Swiftmend on a player, followed by a Wild Growth or Rejuvenation. Then I should have some clear casting procs. I will cast 2 Rejuvenations, 2 regrows to trigger, hopefully, those 2 clear casting procs for the major symbiotic bloom and bursting growth heals on hopefully injured party members. All right, that is the entire heal rotation simplified. If you want to cut out a couple steps and make it simpler, you can simply go Effervescence, Life Bloom, Regrow, Rejuvenations, followed by Swiftman, Wild Growth into Regrowths. And that is your entire heal rotation simplified. Okay. Now, to add on to the healing rotation, there are some fine points. If you cannot make it through the initial setup of blanketing your entire party with life blooms and rejuvenations, because it takes a while to get through 7 globals, someone might take a lot of incoming damage due to casts that were not kicked or interrupted. Then if you feel you are behind, and you will know when you are behind based upon health bars that are dropping too fast, you can simply cast Convoke. And that will catch you up because it will cast 12 random heals or offensive spells, and most of the time it'll blanket your whole party with heal over times. And so it'll save you a lot of time, and it'll make sure your group is extra safe. Convoke is one of the skills you use essentially during a major boss damage event, and it will keep your party afloat as long as you have some heal over times on your party. Now, to do that really well, and this is, we're still talking about the initial setup, for Convoke in general, what you can do, there's 2 tips. One is you can turn around, make sure you do not have your target selected, and cast Convoke, and you are actually more likely to not hit as many offensive spells or cast as many offensive spells as healing spells. It does not mean you will cast 0 offensive spells, as we can see here in a few seconds, but it is more likely to be more healing spells. Now, if you want to be more offensive, you can go into cat form and use Convoke, or just face the enemies and use Convoke. But most of the time, you'll want to turn around, use Convoke, because more of the spells will be offensive. Notice, you'll still see some rats shooting at the enemy, and Moonfires can also happen to offensive abilities, but more likely to cast healing spells. Again, it is random. Now, if you want to go extra, you can go into you can create a macro for Convoke to clear target, which is what I have, /cleartarget, one word, then /cast Convoke the Spirits, and that'll help just slightly make sure you get a little bit more healing from your Convoke. So I might cast my Life Blooms, and then a couple of rejuvenations, or maybe 1 rejuvenation, then go straight into the Convoke turned around, okay? And that is probably the safest opener you can do. So now we've talked essentially about the entire healing rotation. Now, to make it more advanced, if you made it this far, what you can do is after the healing rotation, you can add your CC rotation, as in you can start being proactive against damage. Instead of just healing all the damage that comes in, you have a large variety of tools that you can and should use. I've seen people get kicked from keys for not being talented into these abilities. So the first thing you can do is a direct interrupt, which is your Skull Bash, which you can need to be in cat form to cast, and that will silence and interrupt a spell cast, which is huge for incoming damage. Then you have 2 AoE setups. You can cast Incapacitating Roar, which will just briefly interrupt the AoE spell, as in enemies around you, but the problem is those spells will come back immediately. So what you can do is you can do that one, sure, to give you a brief moment of relief. But then what your best one, and this is the one I'll usually lead with, is you can blanket AoE interrupt or CC stun the enemies by casting Vortex, which will put that little green swirly around, and then I will follow up with a Typhoon, which will knock the enemies out of the swirly, which will bring them back in, and that's essentially 2 solid full seconds of stun, which is huge for killing mobs in a mythic dungeon. And so I would, if you are feeling safe with the heal over times on your party and you realize no damage is coming in, immediately go into your CC rotation, crowd control rotation. Okay. Now option 3. After you have done your CC rotation, then I would say you can go into your damage rotation, as you can go into cat form, start using Rake to put bleeds on all your targets, and use your other cat damaging abilities. But to be honest with you, as a healer these days in this current meta, unless you are at the very top end of keys, you probably wouldn't be here watching this video if you were, then you do not need to contribute damage in average pugs, okay? Not a whole lot of damage at least. It is more important for you to keep your party healthy and feeling safe at full health so that they're able to do more damage. And remember, just by you bringing your raid buff of Mark of the Wild, your party buff, you're giving everyone 3% more versatility, which is actually a lot of damage if you multiply that by the 4 people in your party who are doing damage, okay? So that is essentially all you need to know to do the basic heal rotation for Restoration Druids. I will have more videos on all the specifics. Now I'll show you the build. I don't like to see videos that start with the build. Here is the build I utilize that got me this far. I do not focus on damage. I do have a couple things for damage. The beautiful thing about Restoration Druids is you can customize it to your ability, to your playstyle, which is fantastic. And we'll have a whole video on that will go over this guild talent tree and how to customize it to your needs. But this is essentially a heal-focused Mythic build. This will be in the description below. You can just copy and paste this and follow the rotation and you should be a-okay. Okay, so you learn the entire rotation in 10 minutes. Let's see it in real time and then we'll break it down a little slower in the opening pull of a 14 floodgate. All right, so I go on in, I change order a little bit. I drop my life blooms first, followed by Effervescence, and I quickly cast Convoke because I realize damage is coming in too late for my setup, my heal over time setup. Now I'm blanking on heal over times. Now I'm about to do my Swiftman into Wild Growth, and then I spam the regrowths with more heal over times. I don't feel like I need to waste a regrowth right here. I'm feeling safe, and so I go into some damage. I don't need to CC anything now yet. I'm watching out for it, and that was what I was primed to do, but someone else kicked it. And here I go again into the heal rotation. I'm going to make sure I got my 2 life blooms. I am missing a life bloom. There it is. Followed by heal over times, keep your Effervescent up, Wild Growth into regrowths again. And there we go. I just went into 2 rotations. It wasn't picture perfect clean like I described, but the general concept is the same. Start with your life blooms, Iron Bark if you need it on your tank or whoever. Then go into your rejuvenations, followed by Swiftman, Wild Growth, and then spam regrowths. And if you are safe, you can add damage in like I did there at the very end. Okay, so now we'll see it in the second pull, and this one is a little more textbook. I'll start with the Effervescence, followed by life blooms. I decided on myself was better, just in case I get hit by something. Then I put rejuvenations on the party. Then I should be, I'm just following up with a little bit more rejuvenations first. There's the Swiftman, followed by the Wild Growth. And then I'm feeling safe, so I don't spam regrowths. I start doing some interrupts here. There's the interrupt chain. No need for regrowths because everyone's full. And thus, I'm now starting to add a little bit of damage, trying to keep hots up, come back to heals as I need them. Okay, so I'm breaking it down into slow motion. I know this first pull takes a lot of setup by the tank. And so I'm going to make sure he has extra heals. I pre-dotted him when the dungeon started for the couple hots, but I give him an extra life bloom. I try to get as many rejuvenations as I can on the party, but I realize that damage is too much. I drop my Effervescence. I should have dropped that sooner. I spam my Convoke because I know I'm behind because of how much damage the tank took and how many HOTs I was able to get. And so now I make sure I have my life blooms up. I'm trying to get heal over times up on the group. I'm getting double rejuvenations where I can. And then I'm going to go into my Swiftman Wild Growth combo in just a second here. So I'm just making sure I've got my heal over times, it looks like. And boom, here we go. Swiftman into Wild Growth. Then regrowths where I can to get those blooms and bursting growths going, but now I realize I don't need any heals. But that is essentially the healing rotation. Now you can just go into what is needed. You can repeat the rotation, or you can go into CC, or you can go into damage. I was getting ready for CC here, as in interrupting some spell cast. But I realized it wasn't needed, so I switched to a little bit of damage focus here. And so that is the entire rotation. Again, like, comment, subscribe. If this video helped you, it helps me a ton. Thank you very much for coming.